Welcome back. We're here at the Real Estate Roundtable with IPRG. We have Luke Sproviero here with me. This is Derek Bestrick, and we have guests today, Jeff Znaty and George Giannopoulos from King's Capital. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. So how are we doing today?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good.
Trying to wrap up the year in a big way.
George, you're a big morning guy, right? Is that what I...
Big morning guy, yeah.
Nice.
That's the rumor, yeah.
Yeah, that's the word on the street.
Is it a rumor?
No, it's a fact.
Where did the rumor come from then?
Jeff is, he likes to talk about it because I put it out into the office. I'm a big personal development guy, and for me, my life changed when I started implementing a morning routine. Just starting my day off right, getting my head on straight, waking up earlier, reading, meditating, getting my workout out of the way, just get the blood flowing, get the mind flowing, and just once I started implementing that about 4 years ago, it just felt like my life changed for the better, my work life changed for the better, and since then it's just been, one foot in front of the other, just only good things.
So we're here. It's the morning. So you got in the right place before coming in this morning.
Up at 6, meditated, read, hit the gym.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
How-
6
how
you
long
didn't
Anything
get up.
yet?
What's that?
Didn't eat anything yet?
No, I do intermittent fasting. I'll eat
All
around
right.
2 o'clock.
When do you
so,
start eating? Because there's people in the sauce that do that. Like Donald doesn't eat until 4.
That's what he's doing?
That's,
He doesn't eat
Well,
until
that's a
4.
little
That-
aggressive.
Yeah.
yeah, that's aggressive. Some people go 18 hours. I do 16 to 17 on average. I try to push for 17, but after a while, I just got to eat something. Just
So today, when will you eat?
probably around 1:30, 2 o'clock.
You have coffee this morning?
No,
So you don't do coffee?
no coffee.
Jeff, you do coffee?
No, I'm not a coffee guy. I'm always wired.
You are. You are.
I'm just
Natural.
wired all the time.
Natural.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, glad to have you guys in. We walked around the office. We talked about some deals before we started recording. But yeah, I just want to talk about real estate. Conversation can go anywhere. Just talk about what we're seeing in the market. I think it's an interesting time of year. It's December of 2023. We're wrapping up the year. So kind of a nice time to reflect on what we saw in the past year, what the goals are for next year, what we're trying to accomplish. But I don't know. We can go anywhere with this. I mean, just before we started recording, Jeff, you mentioned that something interesting you've been seeing in the market lately is you're seeing a lot of joint ventures or workouts on transactions where I guess they need to bring in new capital. So you're starting to see more of those types of opportunities.
So I think in the past year or two, there's obviously been challenges. You guys have been very active here, so you guys see a lot of the challenges, either owners that bought in the past few years, whether it be free market, vacant buildings that they couldn't properly execute their business plan, or rent stabilized buildings. People have situations on a yearly basis where they have to sell regardless of market conditions. So I think that the past year there was a lot of cracks with either people who overpaid, rates, maybe expectations in terms of construction, in terms of their business plan. So in the past month, I would say I saw about 10 or 9 joint venture opportunities on either ground up or in mid-construction type of projects, more than I've seen in the past 12 months. So I think more opportunities coming for people who are diligent and active and are in a good position in the market. And I think there's going to be a lot more in the upcoming year, and I'm excited.
Nice.
One thing I think you guys can attest to this or not. I think in an environment that's moving, in 2023, I think everybody saw the shift, and there's no secret of what happened. And the last people to find out are typically sellers. So I think that's what, by the time the market settles and people understand really where it is, maybe from offers or lack of offers, I think at that point people just come to realization and just see what options they have. That's what I think has been happening.
One thing we've noticed, we got to that point, I think, finally, where sellers were, okay, interest rates are higher, rents might have flattened out a little bit, and they're coming to, the realization of where the market was. But now, in the news, stock market's at an all-time high. The rates, everyone thinks are on their way down. So now I feel like we had a few deals, not stall out, where obviously this discussion's still happening, but people definitely think that we're trending in a direction that's positive. So it's hard to pull the trigger now.
For sellers.
For sellers.
Yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind of a past 2 months. We're doing a couple of refis now where we went from a 6.8% refi to now maybe a 6.1.
Yep, I heard that.
It does definitely
Oh, that's
make people
great.
think that things are getting better, but in our humble opinion, I think these things are going to get a little bit worse. I don't think there's going to be any rate cuts for at least 9 months, if not longer. People think May,
Really?
people think June.
People are saying there's this whole Biden bailout.
I mean,
Biden
look,
bailout.
Yeah.
The
You ever heard that?
Of course I heard
the
it. That's true.
unicorn in the room is that there's election year next year, so
Yeah.
people are going to try to do things to make things in their favor, whether it's Biden or other people in policies. But I think that there's a lot more pain. I think there's a lot more loans coming due, and once this new year turns, rate caps and things like that are going to really create a lot of opportunities. So I'm hoping there's more pain, not in a bad way to wish bad on anyone, but we're here for the ride, and we want to make it a big year in 24.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And every mortgage broker I spoke to, I mean, banks still have a floor rate. Like, they're still at a certain point. So, I mean, you were telling me on refi 6.1, 6.2. Like, I've heard some people say that, but a lot of people saying on acquisition loans that a lot of banks are at a 7% on. They won't go under that. They won't.
Vacant or income producing?
Just like on loans. I mean, I
probably
think it
cash
depends.
flowing, yeah. It's a
Vacant for
cash
sure
flowing,
not.
yeah.
I mean, vacant, I don't think anyone's doing that unless it's like some sort of bridge or construction loan. But occupied, cash flowing, banks are saying, yeah, they hear what's going on and they're making more money on a spread. But a lot of these banks are still not loaning under 7%.
They don't want to drop
Yeah,
rates
no.
too quickly, and there hasn't been a real move in the market.
Yeah.
The 5 and the T-bills have come down a little
Yeah.
bit, but there still needs a lot more way to go. I think once you see the 5 and the 10-year under, call it 4% or under, let's say 3.8, then you'll start seeing real opportunity. But I think right now is going to be still in that 6 to 6.5% rate, 7% maybe on certain lenders for the next 6 to 9 months. But that's good. You know why? Because there's always opportunity. People have to buy and sell. Loans have a limited life to them. And when you have groups like IPRG making deals, usually we'll have either good opportunities or you'll save the owner from losing more money.
Yeah.
What deals are you refinancing right now? Can we get into it?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up a project, 148, 150 Clinton. We purchased it about a year ago from Brooklyn Law School. About 25 apartments. We had 23 out of 25 vacant, 24 apartments. We had 22 out of 24 vacant. Fully gutted the building. We're getting anywhere between
You had two tenants in the property.
two tenants
during
right now
The
in
gut
the
renovation.
property. Yeah, through the
Wow.
gut renovation, it was definitely a challenging process between
Was it?
asbestos testing and dust and a lot of fun stuff you deal with when you have
TPU,
existing
right?
tenants.
TPP.
Yeah, forget about it.
TPU is
yeah.
You gotta do that.
Yeah, TPU, exactly. But finished that project. I think rented for about 8 something a foot for fully turnkey 2B building. Buildings fully more or less free market. And, we're seeing rates again at like 6.5%, and we're pulling out.
So,
Real quick, we're selling unrenovated brownstones. Like, they're going to be condo developments, but we're selling those for $1,000 a foot in that location.
Wow.
900 to 1,000.
I think that area is gonna. It's not going anywhere. It's
No.
like the Tribeca of Manhattan, Brooklyn.
It's never been bad, ever. Even when my mom lived in the city in the 80s, in meatpacking, all these areas were horrible. She said Brooklyn Heights, always good.
Always resilient.
Always good. It was never a bad area to live.
It's also a little hard to be afford for that area right now as a family. So
Very-
people I'm
sure.
seeing are going a little bit more towards Carroll Gardens and
Yeah.
Clinton Hill, which
Great
are
areas.
exploding in the past
Carroll Gardens is the
couple of
best.
years.
can we talk about the details on this Clinton Street property?
Yeah, for sure.
So you bought it for 9.6, and you gutted the whole thing. So I assume there's like a construction loan of sorts. There's cost of capital. There's hard costs and soft costs. Do you know what you're all into the deal for?
Probably about 15. The property is somewhere just under 16,000, maybe around high 14s.
High 14s.
High 14s. We've seen.
Do you know what the income is on the property?
Uh,
Or projected income?
I think somewhere around 1.35 gross, somewhere in that
1.35
range.
gross.
So
And how about the net?
the net is just under 1.1.
And how much are you guys pulling out on the refi?
So originally we were expecting 70%. Now we're looking more like
Loan to
40.
cost?
On
loan to
percentage
value?
on the equity invested. Probably LTV somewhere around 70. Now we're getting banks a little bit more skittish, around 65. And we're not pulling out that much money.
How much
maybe.
is that? Do you mind me asking?
What do you mean?
Like how much are you refinancing for?
Probably somewhere around 12 and change, which is
That sounds
not,
pretty good,
It's good,
given the
but,
NOI.
But a product like this in a normal and interest rate environment would be pulling out. It'd be a $14 million loan.
You'd pull out all your cash.
It's not a bad loan because
Not a
No,
bad
it's
loan.
a great loan.
yeah.
Listen, I think end of the day, you can't replace
In the current
basis.
environment.
You can't replace basis. You can't replace location. So I could always renegotiate my rate in a few years or my rent, but the price I paid and the location will never change. So whether it's in year 2 or year 4, you have to have a little bit of a longer outlook if you're investing in New York.
So you bought the deal. You raised money, right? You brought on investors, and you did the whole renovation. Now you stabilize the property, so you're refinancing. So the investors are getting most of their money back.
Probably about half.
Getting half their money back, which is good. And then how does like the cash flow or the cash on cash look for the equity that's invested for the investors at this point?
I'm gonna do defer to that.
You want me to defer? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the specifics.
So usually we return on the overall number somewhere around 8%. Typically, it has
That's
to.
happening
you
on
know,
Clinton?
Yeah, usually about 8% of the original investment, but somewhere around 25% of what's left over in the deal. On these deals, if you're not building to minimum 7.5 yield to go through all that work, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So we're probably in that high to mid 7 yield range. But typically the goal is to have
That's cash on cash for the equity.
On the remaining equity.
on the
remaining
remaining
equity,
equity,
yeah.
yeah. And the goal is
solid.
to
It's
really
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I take that.
Yeah,
That's
definitely
solid.
It's a good number.
goal is to stabilize in less than 2 years, cash flow, and then whether it's the right time to sell or refi, then deal with what you have in the market, and then in that 4 or 5 year horizon, that's when you really see some of the value.
So how much equity is left in the deal? It's gonna be like $2.5 million,
About that.
About that, yeah.
About that.
And how much, like based on the value of the property, how much equity do you think there is
Well, I think
based on the market?
at you guys can tell me, but let's say at a 5.5 cap, which I know is a little challenging today, but hopefully in the
Hopefully we
next
come back there soon.
get to there in a very short order, somewhere in the 19 and change range.
Okay, cool.
So with a lot of hard work,
You guys created
and
a lot of value
team
there.
effort, created some good value there. I think that
It's beautiful.
I think markets have the right timing, and if you time it right, you could do even better than what your expectations are. But it's all about a waiting game in New York. I think New York has a lot of growth in certain neighborhoods and the right buyer. You guys have found some really interesting buyers in the past few years, done some record numbers.
Yeah. I mean,
Who knows?
So
Maybe we're talking to you guys soon
one
about
other-
giving us a buyer.
One other thing I just want to hit on real quick, because you and I spoke, maybe it was about Clinton even before you guys bought it, Jeff, or maybe it was other deals, but you mentioned that you're really trying to like add value for the investors. And one way you mentioned doing that is cost segregation and tax benefits. And I think you mentioned you're looking for real estate professionals as investors in the investments. So did you guys do that on Clinton? Is that the plan? How does that play into the overall picture of the deal?
I'm gonna jump in about how we operate, and I'm gonna let you jump in about the losses. So, buying real estate involves a lot of brain damage between value-add real estate, and multifamily in New York particularly. You have to deal with architects, lawyers, agreements, banks, investors, the construction, the budget, negotiating the deal, dealing with laws, dealing with regulations. It's a lot of day in and day out of just grinding through the process. If you're an architect, it's not easy for you to buy a building. If you're a broker and you're focused all day on doing deals, it's not easy for you to run a building.
No way.
So what we try to do is find ways strategically through the people we work with, rental brokers, architects, lawyers, contractors, to participate in these deals, because otherwise they'd be doing their own projects, not probably being successful.
Yeah.
And this is a way for them to get involved, but also still do their legal work or their architectural work, being involved in a project that they're earning some fees on. In terms of the losses, I mean, it's something we've been dealing with for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a side benefit, right? So like we're targeting on our deals anything from high teen to mid 20s, like the range called 18 to 25 IRR is our target. Nothing less than a high teen is really our target. And we look at the tax benefits for us. The cost seg is really like an added benefit, and obviously, under the tax code, real estate professionals could take 100% of that. Versus other people. I'm not an accountant, but specifically targeting real estate professionals, I think, who don't have the time to, like Jeff said, partake in deals or run a deal, can really benefit from those tax benefits, and aside from the value add we're creating.
Trump did good for us when he was in office.
Yeah.
And, the goal is to hopefully put a couple of dollars in a project, refinance a good portion out, take some good deductions, take that same funds, put it towards another project, take more losses, and continually having the same dollar roll over and over to the next project.
We agree. I mean,
It sounds great. It sounds like a really successful deal.
are you cost taking most of your deals at this point?
Every deal you can.
Every deal you can. So if a building is vacant and
Yeah.
there's no fixtures, typically no.
So the more construction, the better. No.
The more construction, the better, but there's two parts of cost seg, the acquisition
Yep.
and then the construction portion.
Correct.
So we bought a building 356 West 48th that
Okay.
we're selling now in Manhattan on 48th and 9th. The building was a complete shell, and we couldn't cost seg anything. And since we're selling it, even with the construction, our cost seg advisor is telling us not to do anything. But once you purchase it and there's appliances, normal fixtures in place, you can depreciate that from the purchase, renovate it, and depreciate those assets as well. So if you know what you're doing, there's a lot of value to take, not just from making money, but also from not paying taxes. And we try to hit both parts of it.
Yeah, not paying taxes is like making money.
It definitely is. If I
It's
could
very
save
nice.
if I could save 30% on my taxes this year,
Yep.
that's real value today. So the first and foremost goal is to make money on these deals, and like I think George said, this is like an added benefit. We try to squeeze out on every deal. But if you guys know, this year we're at an 80% bonus. Fortunately, next year is at 60 and 40
Yep.
and 20. There's been some chatter about it coming back, but who knows? Prayers, cross fingers, or
Could
something.
you
will
could you
come
elaborate
back.
on this? Because I don't know if I know the specifics. But what's this program called? With the now you're at 80%.
So I was actually
This
speaking
the-
actually last night with my cost seg advisor, Len Berkowitz from
Len.
from
So
Riverside.
Riverside.
we used him, right?
Very
We
good
did.
guy.
We used him. Yeah.
Definitely need to use him. We use him on all our projects, whether
Yeah.
it's 1031 or cost
We use him, yeah.
segregation. And Trump enacted this accelerated depreciation. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of depreciating an asset in 27 and a half years, you can segregate certain assets of the property and segregate it in 5 years.
Cost segregation falls
Cost
under
segregation.
that.
That's what cost segregation
Got
is.
it. Okay.
The way the government works is they look at over a 10-year horizon, and they see where things are in 10 years. So laws don't always stay permanent, at least in the tax law. They started phasing it out. So what happened was you were getting 100% bonus in the first year, and then some bonus over the next 4 years. Last year was 100% bonus. In order for them to get rid of it, they decided to phase it out.
Got it.
So if you were getting, let's say, 70 cents on the dollar last year, you're probably getting 50 cents on the dollar this year, and 35 cents next year, and then so on and so forth until it turns into a normal depreciation schedule.
Because
So,
we had a net lease guy here a couple weeks ago, and he was
Yeah.
talking about people buying like car washes. And,
those are great. You can
and
appreciate those in 1 year.
Yeah, you can depreciate 100%.
But not anymore. Now it's heading down.
Yes.
Now
I
it's
think
phasing out.
It's phasing out. Which
It's
is not good
phasing
for the
out.
car washes.
It is. It is. So it's definitely going to be challenging, and people are going to have bigger tax liabilities. But
Yeah.
I think, listen, end of the day, it's gravy. You got to make money in the real estate, and if you could find other ways to really suck out that value, it's great. Maybe there's going to be some changes in the future, but let's see what happens next year. It's an election year, so it's going to be an interesting year, and who knows who wins, who takes the policies in the right direction for real estate.
sure.
So you guys are selling the Hell's Kitchen properties. So what was that building when you bought it? It was a vacant shell, but was it an apartment? What was the C of O? What was the use of the
20,
property?
it was actually 21 units. It was 5-story. It had a legal unit in the basement. 4 units per floor. Vacant. I don't know how many years it was vacant. At least 20 years, I would say. The building.
Shit.
Complete shell. You could literally walk in and
Is that
see
substandard
essentially
condition?
nothing.
Yeah, was that substandard?
Does that qualify?
That very substantial.
Clearly, yeah, there was nothing there. Yeah, thank God, nothing there. So that was
Yeah.
a clear sub.
But it was a sub rehab deal. Was it
Sub
stabilized?
rehab
right?
deal. It
Okay.
was stable. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last time DHRs were filed or not.
A
but
while.
It may have been. That's how long it was vacant. It could have been 20, 25 years. I have to look back, but
It's a nice
you
deal.
didn't walk in like one of these buildings where you have to think about it if it qualifies. It was a no-brainer. You could walk in the hallway and say, "Okay, this is."
Yeah,
this
there's
is
no
what
roof.
it- No,
Did you guys submit the sub rehab application?
we did not.
Or you,
We did not. We did not.
But you're selling it.
We're selling it.
So you provided all the documentation.
We bring
to-
in an engineer. We bring in an engineer that shows the substandard conditions or
Yeah.
whatever conditions there are. They document it. We hire an attorney to file everything properly.
Yeah.
Joe Goldsmith. And
Very nice.
yeah,
Tell you an interesting fact on this deal. So, prominent family, bought the corner of 48th and 9th, and they bought 5 buildings. Pretty good deal in COVID, November 2021. And when they bought the package, they didn't want this building. They don't want to deal with the renovation, so people don't just have the capacity.
I get that. Yeah.
They gave it to the broker in January, February, and he said, look, I want someone to put down 10%, like $500,000 in March, and close with me in November. Rates were very different in March and November.
They didn't want us to close because of their 1031.
Their 1031, they purchased it
They couldn't sell it.
November 20 or October 21, so they want us to close November 22.
Got it.
He said, no problem, we don't mind doing that, but we want to actually do work in contract, which is not typical. So we ran it for $500,000 deposit, another $700,000 of construction before we closed. By the time we
That's
actually
crazy.
closed, we were about a third done with our
We were
project.
framed up. We were framed up at closing already.
Where'd you get the $700,000 to do construction prior?
Our own money.
Got it.
Friends, family, our own money.
Yeah,
you
just
know.
raised equity.
Yeah, and we
not
said, hey
financed.
guys, we're gonna
No, not
do this
financed.
project now.
Yeah.
We don't have to pay some of the carrying costs or, financing costs.
So I assume
And-
you ran title, obviously.
Yeah,
but
we
like-
ran title, and,
Title,
and we're also
insurance.
dealing with a very prominent owner. It's
Yeah.
not like we would do this with
You
anyone.
recorded the
but
contract to sale?
We
Yeah,
did.
it was recorded in the contract. There was a lot of representations. We had
What
to
would've-
give them reps, insurance-wise.
What would
Yeah.
happen if they couldn't close for whatever reason? You guys put all that money into the.
Unfortunately, we'd probably have to go through specific performance, which would have to force them to close. But this was a billionaire family that you know. They're very known. I know them from my prior, life working with them. So I felt comfortable, but it's, I think, selective situations.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you record the contract, you ran title,
Deal
you
makers.
trust them.
Deal maker.
Yeah.
Also,
That.
you're sitting there. We sit with $500,000 tied up for 6 months. It's like,
Yeah.
you got to make it up somehow. So we just fast forward the deal. We got it done, and we were leasing in the summer, and we were maybe 8 months after closing. We were done the building.
It's the way to do it.
Listen, it's not easy running these construction jobs, but if I don't have to pay the bank and I can pay the owner, I'd rather give the owner a little bit more than pay the bank 9% today because that's where rates are today.
So everyone has like construction stories and stuff like that, but what is your experience with doing all this construction? Like, do you guys have like a project manager? I mean, I feel like obviously Derek and I have done a handful of these as well. We try to go to these sites once a week, once a day, whatever it is, but things obviously it's not our business. Right? Like I'm not a contractor, and I'm assuming you guys don't really know the construction business that well. Maybe you do, but do you have someone that like looks into this stuff for you?
So we have 4 partners.
Okay.
Our third partner that I'm referencing is my brother Thomas, who
Yeah.
oversees construction. He doesn't have a construction background, but
Yeah.
being on a day to day, you kind of learn on the fly. Like we kind of got thrown into this when Jeff and I became partners in 2015. We bought our first building together. We figured out who's going to do what, and my brother and I were overseeing construction together. And then as I pivoted into other things, my brother just took that over. He's gotten a lot more ingrained in on it, and that's his day to day for the most part. He's running around to all the sites. We do have a GC we hire, but we CM the GC overseeing. He helps with the designs, the layouts. He's on site daily. We started recently working the last 2 years with an interior designer we weren't doing previously, so that makes a lot easier. To be honest with you, that's a big recommendation of mine. If you're doing a high end project,
What does this interior designer do?
helps with layouts, finishes. We were running around at the time, just guys grinding. We were running around from Lowe's to tile guys to this, buying things online to put the pieces together to a deal to make you look, beautiful at the same time, cost efficient. And we were doing that hands on. Now the designer kind of lays that out for you, so it saves a lot of time, and it comes out much better than we would have done it.
Yeah.
It saves you a lot of time at the same time.
Definitely using interior designer helps, and I think that if you have someone running a department, they own that division. So his brother really owns that division when it comes to the construction, the timeline. I'm dealing with a lot of the financing, the agreements, the closings. He's owning that department, and he's really bringing that to be as successful as it can for either that project, that timeline, exceeding it. Really, I think
Yeah.
it's about putting departments and having people run those departments.
One thing a couple
good
things I
call.
could add to what you're saying, that what we've learned, there's a couple things where I guess hiccups occur that you've learned only by doing this is that, any occupied building is always going to have some interruptions. You're going to have tenants at the end of the day, anybody who's remaining, they don't love construction. They don't love noise. They don't want their lives interrupted. So chances of them giving you some hard time along the way is pretty relevant. The other thing that's popped up with us, any Alt 1 we've done is, timeline has been, a little bit more than we expected due to the city. And, anything I think comes with the city tends to,
Unknown.
it's an unknown, but also when you we're good at what we control, and getting DOB and getting them to sign off on certain things that they're supposed to do at a timely fashion sometimes doesn't work. So alt ones typically take a lot more than I would like. That's the
What
one
alt
thing.
ones have you done?
So we did 48th Street.
Okay.
48th was an alt
That was an alt
one.
one, huh?
Mulberry was an alt one.
Why was 48th Street an alt one?
Was it Egress?
Egress, we duplexed. I think it was egress and duplex.
Yeah, so that 21st unit, we
you legalized
duplexed
it.
it from the first floor, yeah, legally.
Nice.
And then Mulberry, we had a rear carriage house. So the way the building was previously, it had 2 doors, one that led to the main front building, and then a side door which led to the rear courtyard. We opened it up one, so we had to do an alt one for egress to show that it was one point of access for both buildings. And just the downtime with the city just took much longer than
So that was the main issue with the alt one, is just the downtime and waiting
downtime.
for inspections?
Downtime, yeah. I mean, the work,
sign-offs?
everything went fine. Yeah. And just with DOB, unfortunately, you never know. Depending on how they wake up, they may or may not give you a hard time. That's just what it is.
And the crazy thing is, there's 2 ways of filing plans with DOB. Self-certification, where the architect takes on his own certification, doesn't go through a plan exam with
Yep.
DOB. And then when you're done with the work, DOB comes and then they'll either approve or stamp or give you some objections. The other way, which is more extraneous, which is what we do, is plan exam, which you actually go to DOB, you show them what you're doing, they give you comments, and before you start your work, they give you their approvals or their denials where you have to adjust. We actually went through a whole plan exam, we got everything approved, ready for sign-off, and then the DOB says, wait a minute, how are we approving this? Let's change it.
Which property?
Mulberry. So
Mulberry.
we went through everything that DOB said. We said, you guys stamped it.
Yep. We
With
went through that.
this is what you told us to do.
Yeah.
Now you're telling us
Happened to
9
you
months
guys also?
later that
Happened
it's
to you
not.
guys also?
We got
So-
audited. Well, a deal we sold. We did a sub rehab. We got our plans stamped, approved, and one of the permits expired. Fall to the contractor, and then
the permit expired,
they're like,
then
oh,
you got
whoa,
work
whoa,
with that
whoa!
permit.
You guys are doing this because this is an alt one, not an alt two, and they already approved it as an alt two, and this is we already did the work.
This had to do with duplexing.
So we fought them hard. Yeah,
And what happened?
we got it. We
Thank God.
pushed through.
It's a shame.
No, it was all right, on the old 6 families, there's a door in the front, door in the back.
Yeah.
So we took all the space from the common area and brought it into the units, so we only had one door. I mean, we got rid of that door.
Are you
That was-
saying with the upstairs apartments?
Yeah, well, that's what we got through.
So yeah, Luke
The duplex
referring
we did
to,
not get through.
The second and third floor apartments.
Yeah.
When we bought the building, there's a wraparound
Yeah.
hallway where there's 2 doors to the apartment, the front door and the back door, but we consolidated the hallway to make it
Anytime you move a door, it's an alt one.
Yeah.
though.
Boom. And, but they approved this as an alt two. We did the entire job, and then they came back. So we fought with the commissioner. We went down there. I went down to DOB 5 times with my GC, and they finally approved it. So we didn't have to do it all one.
This is a
Kept
lot
it all
of
two.
rookie mistakes.
Wow,
on
this
our end.
is-
Lucky. I mean, it's,
But
yeah.
they changed it. They stamped the
But you know
plans,
what?
and then they changed.
But you can't fault you for trying. You file it. If they
Yeah.
say yes, great. If
Did.
not, right? We have that mentality to some
Oh, yeah.
extent, but you just never know. For us, that delay, so what Jeff left out was we had a TCO in June. We leased the entire building probably within a week, 10 apartments. Waiting for CO, and this thing happened. We had to cancel all leases, and we ended up coming to market 4 months later in January.
Actually, what happened was
Wow.
we came to market
It was a disaster.
a year ago
That is a
around
disaster.
Thanksgiving. The
DOB
broker,
cost us a ton of money.
yeah, the broker basically told us, thank you, don't call us till after the new year. No one's looking in December. So I think when you bring your units onto the market, could really also determine some of the success of those rentals and what your projections are. So
I think we lost about 20% on those rents. We got great rents. If you look at the building, we actually got great
I
rents.
think
but-
huge rents on
Mulberry?
Mulberry.
Yeah, we're getting over $120, $130 a foot, but the fact is, it's still 20% less than what you had. So it's the hot girl who ran away from you. That's what that
doesn't
was.
happen to you too often. Don't
No,
worry.
Yeah, throw it in.
He gets very upset.
Yeah.
It's okay.
When did you lease the units?
Well, we leased it in January.
January of-
January of
okay.
23.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch coming due now. We were able to get mostly 15 to 18 month leases. So on the renewals, I think we'll be able to make some of that up.
You think the rents are higher now?
Some of it should be.
And some of it should be.
Right now, I think we touched upon this, and it's probably a good transition point. That I think we're in a softening place right now with rents in New York. We saw that from October now.
When we launched Clinton.
When we lost Clinton,
When did you launch it?
August.
Okay.
August.
Which is the best time.
Yeah.
And how'd it go?
I think that what we saw was for units, the units that were between 6 and 8,000 went and sometimes above market. The larger units, which were 10 to 15,000, were a little harder to rent, and I think that was mainly because I think at that price point people have options. I think at that point you go to a brand new luxury building in Dumbo if you really wanted to. There's a bunch of them on the water just got built, so the challenge was just catering to that clientele because obviously I'm not in that mindset, but I think that people just who are a little more affluent, they're a little more particular.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what people say.
We talked about this before we started this, and I think it's interesting because you're not the first person to tell me this. People trying to get the $14,000, $15,000 rents in these walk-ups. People went for it, like at Greenpoint, Williamsburg, that I know you try to do it in Brooklyn Heights. People thought they were going to get them, and it's tough. I think
These
there's a
are
lot of
apartment
options.
buildings.
Like walk-ups, like I mentioned, there's a guy that I know pretty well in Greenpoint, beautiful 25-footer, condo finishes, really nice. For the garden duplex, he tried to get like 15 grand. And he didn't get 15 grand.
Got
and
like 11, right?
Yeah, it looked like a real apartment. Obviously, it looked like you could get it, but I think in that point, there's a lot of options. I mean, 15 grand, you could do a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not there yet.
What are these units? Like, what rented for 6 to 8,000? What rented for over 10? Like, what's the makeup of these?
2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and but we have all 2s and 3s. All 2s and 3s, just different layouts. Because the building was a unique building, and we had to work around some tenancies. We actually have a bunch of duplexes. Like, we probably, I don't know, out of
8 floor plans, 8 different layouts.
Yeah.
Something
usually on a
crazy
building,
like that.
it's like cookie cutters, copy paste. This is all unique. We probably have 8 layouts out of the out of all the
13
units,
apartments.
Yeah, that we gutted. Yeah.
Which unit rented the best out of the building,
The
and
twos.
why? Well, like what got the highest rent, and like what was it about that unit that got such a
The
high
highest rent or for what we were projecting?
No, just the highest rent, the highest overall rent. Like,
Townhouse, the rear townhouse.
That's not fair to
Rear
say. It's
townhouse.
the space, but out of projections, like, right, what did you... Because obviously the bigger units are going to get the more money, right? But what out of your projection, you're like, wow, we hit it out of the park there.
The
Is
two
that what you're
ones.
going for?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the two
I wanna
ones
know
we hit about 10% higher, 5 to 10% higher on some of the twos. The larger unit, which rented for 12.5, we were projecting 15 originally.
got it.
So ones and twos.
Yeah.
The issue, people obviously love ones. I think they rent the best for obvious reasons. You live by yourself, like you have a wife, girlfriend, whatever it is. But there's a ceiling with those, right? Like you're not, the twos, they can take off a little bit more, right? It's easy to rent, and then as the rent goes up, like it's good. But there's definitely a ceiling on the ones. That's what I hear.
I agree
There
with
is
you.
a ceiling, yeah.
The twos, you could either have a family, you could have a roommate,
Yeah.
you could have a home office.
Yeah.
1 bedroom is just, there's a certain amount. I don't see people paying way more than, unless it's a very luxury building, 5,000 for a 1 bedroom, even that's high.
Yeah.
We're seeing that come down closer to low 4s at this
And you'll
point.
get it, but then how's it ever going to... Is it going to go to 7?
I
No,
don't see it
twos will go to
going-
7.
yeah.
8, yeah.
Listen, I think basis, if you buy well, if you keep getting 5, that's a good number. So I think really just buying well and getting, triple digits on a price per foot and buying it at 600-700 a foot, the metrics work. But it's about really execution. I think that's where it starts off with. Layouts are very important. So for us, what George failed to mention on Mulberry, we are getting like $135 a foot, but the layouts are so efficient. Took a lot of hard work with the interior designer and Thomas, our partner, that I think really created a very suitable space. We have a 3-bedroom, 560 square feet.
What?
Exactly.
No living room.
There's a living room.
There is.
It's not that large.
Okay.
It's in the kitchen.
It's in the kitchen, basically. It is. But there's heated floors in the bathroom, washer,
nice.
dryer, dishwasher, wine chiller.
All right. Well, there's.
So what? Yeah. So I was going to ask you amenities, right? Like, what does the best? When I say amenities, I'll throw in like outdoor space, right? Because you see people do like the Juliet balconies, like whatever.
Washer, dryer.
Washer dryer is the biggest,
And then
Washer,
another
dryer.
bathroom.
so 2 bathroom, and then washer dryer is the
Washer,
biggest.
dryer.
Those
You
are
don't
the
think outdoor
biggest.
space is the biggest?
I think
the little
outdoor
light
space
there?
is definitely big.
It's the biggest bump.
The biggest
biggest
bump.
The biggest bump, but not every. You can't do that on every unit, right? The washer dryer, as long as you have vacancies, you can figure that out.
mean,
you have the space.
We talk about Carlisle, right? I mean, obviously it's out in the open. I could say that name probably, whatever. But they switched, right? Like they would have bought deals without washer dryers. They bought
In the
one
units.
of one of our buildings where we had washer dryers in the basements.
Basement, yeah.
Now, like in the last year and a half, that's a requirement. Like they have to have washer dryer in the units. I mean, that's an amenity that I think
And
you
they-
just need.
They love outdoor space. People
Outdoor
like-
space is the biggest.
Yeah.
So we had a building that I think, sometimes in this business, you just have to be in it to win it. Sometimes you buy a deal and you have a certain expectation. I think things just sometimes, hopefully, work out better than you expected, whether it be the rent or the construction or the sale.
Yeah.
We finished a project, which you were making a couple of jokes before about Bed-Stuy or Ocean Hill.
I said you guys you got out of the ghetto a little bit.
Well, first of all, the area is very good, by the way.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
seeing some good sales over there, but
Yeah.
George loves to use the saying, like, we graduated high school and now we're in, I don't know if it's college or the MBA, but one of those. We weren't expecting to sell our building in Brooklyn, in Ocean Hill, Stuyvesant Heights, 64 Howard.
Yeah.
Outdoor space, washer, dryer, stackable in each unit.
Yep.
Splitter units, dishwasher. I think people have a certain expectation of what they want to pay, whether it's buying or leasing. You do a little bit nicer work, a little nicer layout, a little bit extra amenity. You know what? My budget was $4,000. We'll spend an extra $500.
For sure.
One roommate will spend an extra $3,000. The other roommate will spend an extra $2,000. I really wanted to buy it at 6 cap. We'll give you a 5.75 cap because I think these extra things that you do withstand time and they actually give you a lot of value over time.
People want tenants to stay.
Exactly.
If it's nice, they're going to stay.
Exactly. So I think putting a lot of effort in the beginning of how you design your units is really going to give you a lot of value in the long term. It's not just spending a bunch of money, renovating your units, doing well on that. Yeah, it's good. But layout, interior designer, being very methodical in how you lay out your kitchens, your bathrooms, your living space. 48th Street, 356 West 48th, we had very small space. I think it's about 450 square feet, 2 beds.
Yeah.
So one of the genius things our partner did, Tom, is he created the countertop to have a nice breakfast bar. Not huge,
it's beautiful.
but
We love
it's
that.
just small little things like this add up.
For sure.
So being methodical in how you lay out can be a big part of your success with these projects.
For sure. You mentioned the Stuyvesant Heights area, so obviously I'm a big fan of that area. Like I know it well. I have stuff there. I like it a lot. So there's nothing bad about the area. But you were right. Like we sold you that deal on Fulton. We sold you. I know you guys bought something on Thomas S. Boyle in Saratoga, right?
Rockaway, yeah, Rockaway.
Somers,
Rockaway,
Fulton,
Somers,
Sumter,
yeah.
Palmetto.
So these are
Rockaway.
these are J train locations, right? Like, you pick those up on Broadway, right? Is that
The
most
AC,
AC?
yeah.
So and then
But
obviously,
you guys are betting on like the Broadway Junction, Ocean Hill market for a
which is
time.
great. I like the
did,
bets.
yeah.
I still
Yeah.
like it.
I think there's still a lot of growth there.
Same here.
And we're not, against it. It's just, I think when you get to a certain point in your career, the same effort that you have to do for a 6-unit building is the same for a 16-unit building. It's more or less the same brain damage, just in a couple more toilets or bathrooms. And I don't know, I think just we had the opportunity to shift into Manhattan.
You shifted in COVID. Did COVID cause you guys to make that shift?
Straight up.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
okay.
is a common. I mean, I can
Very
name
common.
the most common trend that we've seen during COVID was this trend.
Dude, it's actually really interesting to
I
think
can
of
name
guys
5
that were
people.
buying out in Brooklyn, like Lefferts Gardens or Flatbush
Yeah.
or Ocean Hill, like guys like you that were buying, like the Brooklyn buyers
Dude.
that became like, then COVID happened. And honestly, I think those markets got hit the hardest, like
Did.
Ocean Hill, the eastern markets. But the prime markets performed so well and then just exploded after COVID. So all these guys like you became serious Manhattan buyers and like bringing like the Brooklyn value add perspective into Manhattan with like, some fresh ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say the trend is people that bought, like, let's say East Brooklyn, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, all these areas, now strictly Cobble Hill, Brooklyn Heights, and then Manhattan.
Yeah.
Or sometimes not even Cobble Hill, Brooklyn Heights, just Manhattan.
Well, we'll take the Green Point if you have any
Yeah,
of
I'll
that for
take
us.
those.
You know what?
Yeah.
I should have mentioned. Yeah.
But how about
Green
this?
Point.
What if we have a property for sale in Ocean Hill at this point, or East Bushwick? Should we even send it to you? Are you buyers for it anymore? Or are you out of that game?
I could say that, I don't know if you want to answer this, but
The only thing I'd say is size. I just think that, when you're at a certain point in your career like you guys, you have to find what's worth your time. We have a limited amount of time. Our biggest commodity is our time. So we have to use our time wisely. And if we're going to go and add $1 million in value to a 6-unit building or try to buy a 20-unit building in Manhattan or a much larger project, we have a limited amount of time. There's a limited amount of what we can do in a day. So I think really just the larger projects. Now, if you have a 20-unit building vacant, I'm all ears. We could talk about it today and start working on the PSA.
And everything you want is value add. You wouldn't want any
Well, how are you gonna make money?
Well, there's good cap rates today.
You know,
I know, but hey, you still got to put money out. You got to add value.
You know, that's an interesting argument we have with people. Like,
Yeah.
you could build to a 7 cap or buy a 7 cap, right? At
Yeah,
the end
it's
of the day,
true.
yeah, but at the end of the day, we're still betting on creating that value.
Well, how do you make the construction fees then? Someone's got to make the construction
Someone's
fees.
gonna make a construction, yeah.
You're just giving away fees.
trust me, I'd rather go into a project with less headache and not have to wait 12 months to see that construction finish because time value of money.
Yeah.
I think you could get some really good rates now. I think what happened in COVID, a lot of values reset. And I think that people's expectations just went way down. And people that were active and on the pulse that I'm going to take these projects down and I'm going to take a leap of faith. And our first foray into Manhattan was 140 Mulberry, where I remember the day very vividly. It was basically July 4th, and a few things happened. First of all, this is the heart of COVID. There was no vaccine, and we put sizable amount of money down July 2020, and in the newspaper, in the New York Post, it said mass exodus from Manhattan, 20,000 vacant apartments. What they weren't telling you was the guys that had 8 apartments had another 4 coming up. So really there was 30,000 vacant. And I think like in anything, you take a little risk, you have a little conviction, sometimes you have a little cojones, and things work out. And I think we exceeded our expectations on that project. I think we're in it for just under 9 million, and the project's netting over $1 million. So I think really taking a little bit of a risk, having good thesis, and whether it's the basis, the location, your business plan, but we'd love to buy 7.5 caps or things that are not, vacant. So those are definitely opportunistic now, and I think in a few years, people are going to be laughing that they bought these things at such high
Oh,
yields.
100%.
Yeah.
Prices
You
right now,
guys
I
have
think,
done
are
great
so
deals.
so low.
We have a deal now that
Relative.
we're about to sell that I can't. I'm like blown away by it.
Bring it
Yeah,
up
well-
here. Maybe this is a good way for it to get a little
No,
press.
I
We
can't,
haven't
I
accepted
can't,
an
really,
offer
I can't
now.
really share too much about it, but
Guys, move quick.
but it's not the only one. There's a bunch.
Yeah, there's 2 of these
Where,
I like a lot.
Cap rates are pretty high
For new construction.
as a function of interest rates. And I think just the intrinsic value and the cap rates that we're seeing, I can't believe it. So
These are
price per foot,
421A deals, like the new 421A at
I think
7
now
cap
is-
plus.
What type of price per foot?
70-30?
I forget.
Square
Yeah,
foot,
70-30.
70-30?
70/30s. I mean, the price per foot on there's a 21 unit or 24 unit and then a bigger building. The 24 unit, the price per foot has to be fine. Like it has to be attractive. I don't know the price per foot on the other big one.
I don't recall offhand.
Yeah, the yields are there though.
But
Can't
it's just
place
like
these.
I don't know. It's just like now it's got to be such a good buying opportunity. Yields have gotten so high. I think the intrinsic value is just definitely there. You just got to hope that rates come down, and if they do, there's
They will. It's not a matter of
Yeah,
if, right?
rates go
We
from-
believe. I don't think we'd be in this business if we didn't believe that.
rates go from 6.5 or cap rates go from 6.5 to 5.5. There's a nice spread to be made there. So I think that's pretty
I
exciting.
didn't
and
realize
interesting.
when I was a young professional in this business, like how interest rates affect the market so much. Like and now it's just so obvious. It's like, oh, you try to buy when the rates are really high because they'll come down, and then if you're buying when rates are really really low, I mean, you're probably paying a lot.
Overpaying because your purchase is an instrument of what the lending environment
Yeah.
is.
But there's
And
like a lot of moving factors. Like they have like a lot of risks. I feel like in the market. Just
Where?
Just like in general. I think interest rates and like
sure.
what's the real value of a property. I think that's a big risk for investors and the rental market as well. Like what are the real rents? Is it top of the market rents? Is it a pullback? So I think
And what are the laws going to be? Are they going to come out with these, make up all these new
good
rules?
cost.
it's not getting easier, gentlemen. It's
I
not
think-
getting
Yeah.
easier. In
But
New
can
York.
it get harder? I mean, can it get
could
harder?
be
I
harder.
don't want to say that because
Different
know what?
differences,
No, it could be,
small differences in rents and interest rates turn into big swings in value.
I know, but things.
I mean, you guys obviously are doing a
100%,
great job in the
100%,
rentals, and I think you have a
100%.
really good
Yeah,
reputation.
I want to say that about
for
because
getting-
I looked at all your stuff before you guys came in, and I knew a lot of it too. And I love looking at renovations on Street Easy, and I looked at Clinton, I looked at Mulberry. I was very impressed with the layouts, the finishes, the renovations. And a lot of people just aren't putting out product like that, so I was very
you.
impressed.
Thank you. Appreciate
A lot of hard work.
Especially and I like Clinton. The finishes are very nice.
You gotta have a good vision. Like I
Yep.
said, we have a good team. I don't want to be honest. No credit to me. A lot
Yeah.
of it is my partner Thomas, who really had a lot of vision and design to it.
Yeah.
When it comes to instrumenting the construction, the business plan, the financing, we all have our roles, and I think that's how you're going to succeed: is having a good team behind you, having people that are going to show up every day, be committed, and be able to exceed in what they're looking to do in that department. So I think you guys built a great company here. I think you guys
Thank
have
you.
a lot of different divisions. You have a lot of people that focus on different markets.
Yeah, we do.
You guys used to be the dominating broker in Brooklyn. Now you guys are not only Brooklyn, but also doing a lot in Manhattan, sitting in your beautiful office at 45
Queens,
Broadway.
Bronx as well, right?
Bronx,
Yeah.
you guys,
Jersey.
Jersey. I mean, you guys are,
We have a retail leasing.
these guys are going to be the staple brokers in
We
New
have
York.
65 seats here.
This
We got to
is
fill
great.
this place.
Yeah. fill it.
They're
Amazing
hiring, if you
space.
guys are looking for, we're hiring a few more people. We'll start
Yeah.
interviews next week.
Exactly. Call it Zach Gullib.
Got it.
For that, not us. But yeah.
It's got to fit the core values of the company, though.
100%.
Gotta
I
be-
love your
it's
core
tough.
values.
Gotta be-
Yeah.
I love that. It's great.
Yeah. You guys bought a deal in Houston too, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Two.
So we have
So
about
what's that all about? I don't know anything about these deals.
You know Texas a little bit.
Well, of course I know Texas, but I don't know about these deals.
You don't know about these deals.
And also, our accountant, Ed Secker, was big on buying in Houston.
Well, I mean, he's not finished. He
Oh, yeah,
he
he's
preaches
built-
Houston. He'll do anything.
He bought a big
Oh,
portfolio.
Houston,
And-
really?
And isn't
Oh,
like Grant Cardone
you
always
should
talking
connect with
about
our
Houston?
accountant.
Tell him to call us.
Oh, Ed Secker. I mean, he's
built a big
hilarious. He's
portfolio down
hilarious.
there.
Yeah?
He
Oh,
owns
yeah.
hundreds of units.
He
With
knows
his
what he's
son.
By himself?
I think so.
Oh yeah, the guy's got a real business.
It's nice.
Look at those helicopters.
Ed Secker has some real. I mean,
They're looking for us.
they're taking videos of the podcast. I love it.
Yeah.
Good angles.
Yeah.
Is that the drone?
So, just like in anything in business, you always look to progress. And I feel like if you're not progressing, you're regressing. So you just
Yeah.
have to look at how I'm going to either do things bigger or more efficient or better. We wanted to get into some larger projects. The only way to do that, I think, to be able to mitigate either rent regulation or tax implications, because when you're over 10 units, you're not a 2B protected tax class, and the city essentially becomes your partner. 25%, give or take, of your income goes to taxes. Usually when you're over, 6 units, you're rent stabilized, and it's very hard to find, a 50-unit building that's fully free market or vacant. So in these states, there's more favorable rent laws for landlords in terms of evictions and non-paying tenants, and we were able to take down, I think in our first purchase, about 202 units, and our second purchase, 115. And the thought process is it's easier to add $20 or $50 in value to 200 apartments, which can equate to $400,000 in income, give or take, versus trying to break our head on 10-unit building where you're adding, $400,000.
that's like the Cardone thing. I mean, I obviously I think he's very smart, but yeah, he's like, listen, you buy a 400, 500 unit building. All I do is I put washer dryers in all of them, and I increase the rent $40. But 40 times 400, you're talking.
So
Yep.
the
Yeah.
only issue in that market, a few issues,
Yeah.
but one of the issues is people take floating debt.
Yeah.
And this end of this year, there's a thing called rate caps, which you don't see them in New York.
No, you don't see that in New York.
So what it is basically, it's a insurance you buy when you close your project. And when we were closing our deal, there was a $250,000 rate cap, and I was like, what are you spending?
How much was the rate cap? Like, what were the details of that?
So I think our rate was 4.7, and it capped us at 5.8. And now
On
our
floating rate.
and a floating rate.
But
and
it
now
cost how much?
$250 upfront day one.
Did you do it?
We did
Yeah,
it.
Did it. Thank God.
Our rate is at 5.8 instead of
So
8.8.
you're capped it at 5.8.
Our rate cap is actually worth about $750,000.
Oh, wow.
I've had
What does that
people-
mean? How do you calculate that?
So
Explain that.
it's like buying insurance protection for rates going up. A bank will say, hey, or insurance company will say, hey, we'll take the premium upfront, $250. Maybe your rates will go up in 6 months, 12 months, 20 months, but we have that $250 today as cash liquid to do what we want with it. When it does go up, we'll compensate or we'll make up that difference of anything over that limit of the rate cap. So we went from 4.7 or 4.8 to 5.8 instead of 8.8. The banks or that insurance company's paying it every month. We sell the project.
Love it.
That insurance still has another year left on it. It's worth $700,000 given where the rates have went. So I know people that sold projects and they made maybe 60% on their return on the project, and they made 300% return on their rate
How
cap.
big was the loan?
Our loan?
Yeah, when you
It
bought
was
it.
about
when you took on
a
the rate cap.
$17 million loan.
Got it. So 17 million, 250 is not a huge
It's
number.
not huge, but when you're spending $250 day one and you're not expecting that,
So
it's
Yeah.
can you guys elaborate on like that conversation? Like back then when rates, I don't think there was any like clear indication that rates are going to shoot up so much.
There's never an indication of how
and
high.
to
yeah.
spend $250,000 on an insurance policy.
So we didn't know what it was getting into it. Like we hadn't done one of these before,
Yeah.
and then the bank actually mandated this. It was part of their requirement to close the loan. So they enforced it to some extent, and we were like, do we have to pay that? Well, you look at the dollars, right? Like, at the end of the day, it ended up being a no-brainer.
It
for
was
us.
the best
no-brainer.
decision we made.
Wow.
And what's happening is,
So it was equity you guys had to come up with, the 250.
yeah, well, it was part of the
It was
closing.
part of part of the equity stack.
But what's
Got it.
happening now is, the Grant Cardones or the other operators of the world, and I'll tell you a funny story in a minute about them, their loans or rate caps are coming due. And even though they made it this value, the shift in interest rates shifted so much that maybe they were at a 4 cap and they're expecting to sell at a 5.5 cap. Well, now the market's a 6.25 cap.
Yep.
How do they make sense of this?
I have no idea.
So,
I don't know how Grant Cardone makes money.
I
really
think
don't.
after December 31st, there's going to be a lot more pain out of New York, unfortunately. But it's going to be interesting.
Well, what about there's one big thing you didn't mention. You said there's two.
Oh, there's two. So I think it's floating rate.
Yeah.
And it's rate caps. I think some people have floating rates where they don't anticipate it. Some groups say, I'm not taking a rate cap. If I end up getting hit, I'll pay it out of pocket.
Well, isn't the rate cap like $1 million on some of these loans?
Now, because of the way rates are,
On smaller loans.
they went to some really and they're like, $1 million, I'd rather pay this money over time. Well, if they have to be held to hold it longer and they can't refinance, they could be paying well over $1 million.
What I've heard a lot about, and you see it a little bit in New York now, and obviously when you buy out of New York, it's about yield, right? So anything to put a hole in your yield is not good, but insurance. Like, isn't insurance like insane for these big complexes out and they went up so much, and that right?
You're touching a sore subject.
Well, you said two. I thought you were going to mention
No,
insurance.
well,
That was-
insurance
that
is
was-
Maybe there's
definitely.
a third.
Actually, you know what?
the
Insurance president takes over everything.
Yeah, we went from 1,000 when we closed. Actually, a little. It was $950 a unit we were paying to $2,350 on the renewal with no claims.
Now, just to put that into
With no
math,
claims.
With no claims. Primarily because of wind, because it's south, hurricane zone. That was the whole thing, and the banks had their requirements, and it was just honestly
wow.
excessive. It was really excessive for no reason whatsoever. But you don't have a choice. And the thing with Texas is you only have 2 carriers that insure down there technically.
Wow.
So you're limited to who you can go to. We were able to get it down through, we were able to reassess some of the renovations we did and whatnot, and we were bringing it down to now like 1,500. So much better than what we were, a little bit higher than what we were on the initial, but I think come January 1st, we'll be in a much better place.
let's do the math. 1,000, 1,300, difference, 2,300, 1,000, 1,300, 200 units.
Yeah, $230,000 on your NOI.
Which is a killer.
Is a killer.
$260,000
It's a killer.
on your NOI.
It's a
We
killer.
could be talking about $4 million in value, at
Definitely.
least.
There's people I talked to. I think it was like Atlanta, and they basically lost like all their equity because insurance went up a certain amount per unit. It's a 400 unit complex.
Wow.
And that's that. Like, think about Florida. Like, Florida, I heard you can't even get insurance, or it's hard.
It's
Like on the water?
It's impossible, and you're paying through the nose for it, and it's crazy. So I think Florida is going to have its own challenges definitely between property insurance. But I think what makes good brokers and good active people in this industry is finding where there's opportunity. Like you guys said, you guys create opportunity. That's what RPRG is about. I think the next foray for you guys next year, start taking over different states, start opening a Florida office, an Atlanta office, a Houston office.
We're talking about it.
I think you guys are going to start
We
taking
started
over
the Jersey
city.
thing because we were like, it's close to us. So that the one thing, so Derek and I talk about this all the time, but we're not there. We don't know the market. But yeah, I mean, it's something we should do. I mean, Derek and I talk about this all the time, literally about New York. They're just taking away what we
The market
can sell.
keeps getting smaller.
Smaller. Oh, no more stabilized. Okay, no more development because of 421A.
It's
No
just-
more
it's
this.
just,
that.
I walk around Brooklyn or drive around, and I just look at like the buildings, and I see like these bigger apartment buildings, and it used to just be so exciting to like see these buildings, and it was like so sexy to stand outside of these buildings.
Crown
and, like,
Heights limestone,
just
too.
the opportunity, and now I look at them and just like there's like all sorts of rent stabilized tenants, and like the paperwork is probably a disaster, and not to mention the violations and the tax and all the other stuff, and it's just gotten a lot harder to sell, and the market used to just be so vast. I felt like I could sell everything, like all over. And now it's like you just have to like walk through raindrops to like find where you should be spending your time and effort. And I just wonder if I don't know. I wonder if it's a little less regulated, a little easier in some other markets where
100%.
you don't have all.
100%.
Yeah.
You're doing
Red
larger
states.
deals. You're doing 30 for working on a transaction down in Dallas. It's $55 million. And the financing is there. People want to
What
go
kind
to
of
these
deal? It's
states.
apartment building?
Apartment building,
Class
new
A.
class construction.
Sounds amazing. It's got to be a beautiful
There's
property.
some light value add. They've owned it for 22 years, so they haven't done anything in 20 years. maybe we'll add a washer dryer, update the appliances, but I think, maybe following the money is a good chance.
So how do you guys like find that deal? Why do you decide that Houston or Dallas are places that you'd want to invest? Like, why are you guys in the mix on that kind of stuff?
Well, for sure, the red state has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
And, you can, like, scaling is probably number two, because you can buy 200 or 300 units at a clip, where you can't really do that in New York very easily without having to go through those challenges that Jeff mentioned with regulations or,
Tax.
or RPIE that you have to pay, taxes, and then growth. Like, there's a big influx between Texas and Florida, so they're both, growing markets, and they're not slowing down.
For sure.
So those are probably the three biggest reasons.
So we pay a lot of money to CoStar. I don't know if you guys do. And
Some money paid to them.
yeah, so we look very diligently to see what's happening in demographics, salary. We saw a lot of people move from California
So
to
many
Texas.
people from California to Texas.
It's very, very sad. I just lost my nanny to Texas. It's very, very sad.
Oh, wow.
It's her last week. It's
Houston?
it might be Houston.
I think you
Okay.
told me it was Houston.
It's Houston, yeah. It's
All right.
it's horrible.
I went to college in Austin, and I have friends who still live in Austin. My sister lives in Dallas. And yeah, I mean, the amount of people from California that move to Texas, it's just so crazy.
And California's
But
such
it's
a failed
probably
state.
going to change the psyche of the state as well, because you have, the people from California, I'm assuming, are more liberal.
It's a good assumption.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Well,
Hopefully
they're
not.
not as liberal as the ones that are still there, but
Hopefully not, but there's been some chatter about that. I've seen some of that stuff.
Have you seen that?
Well, there's talk about it becoming a blue state eventually and all this stuff. And
yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Ooh, maybe they should cap the amount of Californians they're letting out.
That would be a great
Keep 'em
great
there.
thing. That would be a
Yeah,
great
I saw another town in upstate New York. I think it was Newburgh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
rent
saw that.
stabilization.
Just decided to allow rent stabilization.
How does that surprise you?
Like,
I mean-
yeah.
It's unfortunate that even the smaller property owners are feeling it. And
Yeah,
if they have good
for
cause
sure.
eviction and you're a grandmother that has a 3-family or 4-family and you're renting out to someone for income and you're living and now they don't want to pay you, what is she doing? She doesn't have the resources or the ability
It's
like
awful.
us.
It's really awful.
So I think, fortunately, a little more pain has to come before there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but
You want a little more pain.
I definitely want a little
instead
more
of-
pain. I want to make a little bit more deals this year, and I
Yeah.
think
Makes sense.
You're not
No.
the first person to tell us that.
Not good cause pain. Though.
Yeah.
That's
Not good- no,
not
but-
good
It costs me
pain.
bad
Not
pain.
good.
not
That
good
would
cause
be
pain. That's too much painful.
That,
That's
similar to what you said. Like, we had go through this question. Like, we used to buy partially stabilized. We own some stabilized assets. We bought our tenants. We did the whole thing, and with the laws shifting to the way they did, it obviously became much more challenging. Where we strictly focused on mostly free market or vacant buildings, and more recently we've transitioned to we're bidding on some condo sites. One's a JV, one's straight up acquisition with some seller financing, not too far from here.
These are ground up sites?
Ground up sites.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
ground
cool.
up sites. So
Wow.
yeah, I think we're pivoting into that for multiple reasons. A, I don't have to deal with the rent laws, and I think there's so much, supply compression where I'm very confident in if I'm coming to market sometime in
25.
that I'll be in a good place.
I'll tell you now, our condo, that's a huge business for us right now. I mean, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Park Slope, all these areas, the condo development numbers haven't changed at all. If anything, they've gone up. And we had a condo developer on last week, right? 2 weeks ago? And yeah, I mean, he's projecting out 2 years, and we're still selling them at high water points.
Yeah. It's a good point.
What price
I like
tags
that.
for these
Yeah.
condos?
What, you're talking about a sellout?
Yeah, like
It
what
depends
price
on
are they? Like
location,
2 million?
It's Brooklyn.
'Cause I know that-
Saying 1,800.
Purchases under like
Where
2 million or
Brooklyn?
less, people coming with all
Park Slope.
cash.
Yeah, I
very
mean, like
doable.
Yeah.
Williamsburg, let's take that
Very
for
doable.
example, right? We're selling sites at $400 a foot, sometimes more. We sold one on North 6 for $525 a foot.
saw
These
that.
numbers are not at any way have gone down at all. And
What
people
are they
are
selling out at?
I would assume if you're buying 400 or 500, your sellouts are 1,300, 1,400 a foot.
That's
Minimum. That's light.
Minimum.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think you got to be in
Higher.
You got to be
You
in
think
higher.
so?
You got to be in higher. Yeah, like we're looking at something.
Dude,
and
the rule of thumb is 3 times the price of
It's a
the
good
land.
rule of thumb.
So
Yeah.
500, that means 1,500 or whatever.
Well, 500, that's definitely 15, 16, 17 because that's North 6 and Driggs.
Yeah,
so
I would
that's
think that.
that's extremely prime.
Yeah.
525 is a big number for
I wouldn't be
Williamsburg.
surprised if they get higher. Honestly, I'm
Yeah.
seeing some stuffs in Greenpoint that's like in the 1,700 a foot range.
So block sensitive too. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I think if you're under really 2, but call it 2.5, people coming with all cash, and that's
Yep.
where you're seeing a lot of buyers because still the financing market is still
it's
6.5%.
really tough.
We're targeting anything from 5 to 20,000. Nothing bigger than that right now. I think that's a good niche for us.
Yeah.
We're ready for the next condo site, guys.
Yeah.
How
all right, good.
often are you guys going to Texas?
Somebody from our team is usually out around once a month.
Once a month, okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why we also bought in Texas was we have a local partner there, and I think if you're going to do anything
Got it.
out of state, make sure you have boots on the ground.
How'd
a local
you
partner.
find that local partner?
Interviews.
Wow.
We interviewed various property management companies, and our goal was to try to find one that, besides having experience, was willing to come into the deal. So they came in on the equity side and the GP side, and they have experience. So they came in on the deal.
Smart.
So obviously our interests are aligned here.
Very smart.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. They have to have.
Skin in the game.
Going back to what our good client Bernie back in the day. I mean, that's what he said. He ran such a good shop, and he said the biggest thing: have your manager, whoever's
People
dealing with
have to be
everything,
incentivized.
give them equity in the deal. He's gave him equity in the deal, and he knew he's not going to mess anything up if he has his money, his net worth in these
100%,
deals.
100%.
And when they don't have their net worth or their money in the deals, that's when they just don't care. You're not aligned.
Same thing I was telling you about with Clinton. We have architect,
Yep.
contractor, lawyer.
They're in the deal.
Everyone is in the deal because
I love that. The
it's
contractor in
very
the deal.
hard for them to find a project. But if they're doing the same construction work on a project and it's not changing, but they're able to keep a little sweat equity or get involved a little bit on a
Love that.
equitable interest, they're making money. They're doing the same work. They're making their own fees.
Yep.
And if they like
getting
the
the right
operator,
price.
the right price, and they like the operator, hopefully they'll do a little bit cheaper, a little
Yep.
bit faster, and put a little more attention because they have something to gain or lose in
Yeah.
that project.
I love
That's the way you
that.
got to do things.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? What do you think? I love that point. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
No, I don't have a whole lot more. I think this was really good. I mean, I think it's really incredible how you guys started. You know, we were obviously selling you small buildings in East Brooklyn. Then for you guys to become like such serious like Manhattan buyers, you could say it's the NBA. I think it's fair.
Manhattan's
And then-
the NBA.
And then to be doing $20 to $50 million deals in Texas and like be buying like these Class A complexes, it's really awesome to see. And look, it seems like you guys have really built a very nice business.
Yeah.
So it's really great to see.
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
you
it
guys
took a
are
lot
part
of
of that.
years. Yeah, you guys are definitely part of that. It took a lot of years to get there. And just to tell you a funny story on a deal we did with IPRG. So 2104 Fulton, we bought it, and we learned a lot from that deal. It was a frame building.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I don't know if it was you or maybe Steve. And
Steve was running point on that.
Steve.
Yeah.
And he calls me up and he goes, so we were marketing as 4 apartments in a store. We found out it's 5 apartment store. You guys got a great deal. I'm very excited. We got a great deal. Okay, we got 5 apartments in a store. We already knew that because whatever.
Yeah. Steve didn't know.
Close on the
We checked, yeah, we
close
saw
on
that.
the project. Let alone the owner, old lady, very sweet lady. She had a huge fire in the building, and instead of fixing the fire, she just put
Covered it
sheetrock,
with sheetrock.
covered everything.
Like
And-
the charred wood just
Oh,
covered
it was
That's what it
completely
was.
charred.
We did not know that. I'll speak. I did not know that.
And as tenants started leaving, she goes, "Yeah, I'm having an issue with my cabinet. I put a plate, and it keeps sliding down." And I said, "What's going on?" We found out the building was leaning in and collapsing.
Oh my God.
So you always have to expect for the worst.
Wow.
After that deal, we learned a lot from buying frame buildings. Always have a contingency. In that particular project, we had an additional $250,000 in structural work,
Damn.
but we were able to pivot by making the 2s 3 bedrooms. Again, another kudos to Thomas, our partner.
Could
But
you have found out about the fire in public record, like violations or title?
Even if you can find it, no, it doesn't come up on title. But even if it was there, nothing came up.
Yeah.
Even if it does, you would assume it'd be repaired. You know, it's literally you walked in, you didn't see it. It was literally covered up with sheetrock, and it wasn't until we vacated the building where you ripped
doing
everything
work.
down.
Once you start doing
insane.
work,
And
things
then you
start
saw top
popping up.
beams.
Charred. The whole
You
building
guys
was
had to
like,
spend $250 on structural.
yeah, plus downtime, plus this. You know,
Wow.
we were in the deal for much more. It was funny at
Yeah.
the time. It was probably our most hated project at the time, but now it's actually one of our best assets.
You
Cash
guys
flow,
got
we
a
got
good
great rents.
refi there. I
We
remember
got-
the refi. I was
we got a
like,
good
oh, serious refi.
Yeah, we bought it for 1.2, and I think we refied 2.2 on that. So
All right.
yeah, so we made up for it. No, but it ends up being now we got great cash flow there, and
You should tell Steve about that fire. I don't think he knows that. That's crazy.
we may have. We
Yeah.
thought about, do we sue this lady? She knew, and we felt deceived. Honestly, we felt
You
deceived.
should bust his balls a little bit on the way out of here.
We should.
You know, it's always good busting Steve's chops.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
But we have good debt there,
Yeah.
so when that does come due, we know who to call.
Yeah, good.
George, just one last thing. You meditate every day?
Every morning, yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
about 3-4 years.
How'd you get into that?
My brother, honestly, like,
Yeah.
so, you know, I was going through a point in my life where it's, you know, a little, I wouldn't call it down, but more of a rut, you know, and my brother put me on to Tony Robbins initially. I was always a Tony Robbins guy, but for my birthday, he sent me to UPW in Palm Beach. So since then, I took a lot of the practices they were doing, and just implemented. So what I took out of that was, you know, today, you know, you kind of go through this transformation process that, I don't know if you guys have been to UPW, but
Been to Tony Robbins.
We have been, yeah.
so UPW, so you go through this transformation process, and they say, you know, today you become a new you to some extent. You know, you walk on charcoal,
I didn't
fire.
walk on the fire. It was too late at night, but you did?
I did, and I felt my body was tingling. It was vibrating. I felt like ecstatic. Like the energy I felt in that building, it was like I got addicted to it, and I said, there's no going back. So from that point on, I said, you know what, I'm not gonna. It's like going to a networking event. You're only as good as what you take from out of it, right? It's really nothing if you don't do nothing with it. So what I took out of it was, from today on, I'm going to implement A, B, C, D, E, and from that point on, it was just became part of my lifestyle. Like force myself to wake up a little bit earlier and just get it done. Because
How long do you meditate for in the mornings?
About 15 minutes.
It's been pretty like impactful on your life for the past few
Impactful.
years.
So yeah, I you know, outside of touching the meditation on my phone, I don't touch my phone for about 30 minutes. Just kind of just me time in the morning. Just play guided meditation. Then I journal a little bit. Then I read, and then I get dressed and head out.
Nice.
So it's
That's
good
awesome.
30 minutes of just me time in the morning.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's good that you're
It's-
consistent. That's the hardest thing, being
It's-
consistent.
It's interesting how, like, if you ever listen to your thoughts, like, just nonstop. Like, your brain is always just going and going and going. And it's kind of interesting to watch it and try to get it to calm down. And if you take a step back from that, it really opens up, I think, some bigger picture perspective in life and keeps things in proper perspective. So
For sure.
You know, I think in business, I don't know a lot of people that talk about meditation and bring it up, but and I meditate.
If you look enough, a lot of people do it. They'll
I'd
talk
like
about it.
to be more consistent with it. I think especially like I've taken time to meditate during the business day, and I've always found that to be incredibly helpful. Like
During the day?
During the day, yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know if you know this, but the brain has roughly, you have the conscious and you have your subconscious. You have roughly 90,000 thoughts a day that we don't think about this. You're thinking about stuff you don't even know you're thinking about.
Of course.
So unless you unless you're intentional and try to slow that down, it's just your brain takes over.
loves that
Your-
word,
your-
intentional.
Your subconscious takes over you. This is what it is. So you have to slow down and be able to control. Because once you're intentional, you can, you know, guide things in the right direction.
For
right?
sure.
So whatever that is. So just like the way we can go to the gym, I'm sure everyone here does something fitness. Why can't we do the same for our brains, right? You have to just work that out. That's what it all starts with this at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Small tidbit. He said, you know, you're starting off your morning's your whole day. If you start off upset or flustered or you're dealing with too much in the morning, you're gonna start your day off incorrect.
Sound
So
wrong.
when he wakes up in the morning, taught me this, pick out the clothing the night before. So when you wake up, I don't have to think about what I'm wearing. I already know what I'm wearing in the morning.
It's a good
Saves
point.
yourself a little bit of mental process in the morning to focus on what's important, whether it's getting to work or not having to worry about what shoes I'm gonna wear today.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it's really great. Is there anything else you guys would like to bring up or go over?
I think this year is going to be an interesting year. I think anyone in the industry has to be diligent and focused in terms of finding the opportunity. And I think if you're dealing with good people, whether it be brokers or just good buyers, I think that's what's going to create success. And hopefully we could be on your radar next year.
100%.
You definitely will be.
Appreciate you guys coming in for sure.
appreciate
And
having
being
us.
so open.
This is
Derek
great.
asked you some good, hard questions there, and I appreciate all
Next
the
time we're going to
answers.
have liquor over here with us.
Yeah.
Get a little
Yeah,
tequila.
for sure. We will. We'll definitely do a follow-up here.
We'll do an evening session.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys get some more $50 million deals under
Man,
your
we'll
belt.
talk more
man,
about it.
man.
We'll have a lot more to talk about next year.
Yeah, because you have all those deals under contract too. We didn't even talk about any of that, but
Well,
it's all good.
well,
Yeah.
We're
Next
buying
time.
a few things in the city, thank God, mostly vacant, and I think that's where we excel, is finding it vacant, doing the work, and going through the mud for the first year, and I think it's not a lot of them. I don't think you guys find a lot in Manhattan, but I think
tough.
really being pinpointing what your desire. Last thing that he forgot to mention is mindset is everything. Where the mind goes, energy flows. So like if you're intentional, if you're focused on a certain thing, things will start happening for you. Life happens for you, not to you. It's a saying
Correct.
I got from my good partner over here.
He's crushing it,
He
isn't
is
it?
killing it.
No, it's
Man.
good.
That's why he's the
Yeah.
CEO of the company, helping us lead, helping us start
Wow.
the days and the week off right, and we have
The guy's got the mindset, the winning mindset.
when we finish our Monday meeting, we clap. That's how we end the meeting. We clap, like, let's start the day in a good way, in a
I
positive way.
love
All
that.
right. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Little tidbits. Hopefully, we gave some insight to you guys as well.
No, I
Yeah,
And
you did.
likewise.
I think the listeners will take a lot out of it. I think there's some really good stuff that you guys went over. So really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate you
Thank
guys'
you
time.
guys.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of brokers that listen to this, so hopefully everyone has you on their radar for buying these properties. whatever
We're
it is.
investing with you guys. I mean, that's
It's a good point.
for
For
sure.
us, it's long term. This is a real long term business,
Yeah.
and you got to have that outlook. So we're hoping we
Cool.
can be doing this for many years to come. I mean,
Good.
probably be on a beach in Greece somewhere, but I'll be sitting here working.
Sooner than
in New
later,
York.
All right.
All right, guys. Appreciate your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
It was
you.
great.